Well, it has been a while since I last uploaded anything onto this channel. This is like my third coming back type video I've made in the past year or two. As you can see, the past four videos on my channel, three of those, if you include this one, are all like the future of my channel or I'm back type videos. That was not my intention, but that's just how it ended up going. That first video I made back in 2024, I think it was, I had these big plans of different types of content I wanted to make. Long story short, that did not happen. Like, I did not make a single bit of content that I had planned. I probably gave excuses for why I didn't. In my next, future of my channel slash coming back video, which I uploaded back in February or March, I had every intention of just uploading Origin Realms, Hypixel videos, and whatever else I said I had planned. Because I did end up making a second channel too for murder mystery content. And yeah, I was planning on having fun with that and just doing that for the rest of 2025 and really grinding YouTube during the summer. However, that did not end up happening, unfortunately. I had every intention of actually sticking to my plan, whatever it was I said in that video. So I kind of forgot some of it now. But yeah, I had every intention of sticking to that plan, but unfortunately, my life did not go the way I thought it would in 2025. Before I get into that though, I do want to quickly say I have a new PC. I spent the past couple hours setting up the recording and audio settings. Hopefully, it sounds just as good or better than my past videos have sounded, and video quality wise, but I don't know. Maybe they're a little worse, maybe they're the same. I don't know. I tried my best. I'm not really good at configuring this type of stuff, so if there's some slight issues, I don't know how I'll be able to fix them, to be honest. I did what I could. I could probably watch more YouTube videos. It's not the funnest thing for me to do, but hopefully this is good, but if there is something major I need to fix, I will do that. Anyways, back into the topic of this video, which is why I've been gone, and that is because my serious health issues I ended up developing in early 2025. Some of you probably know a good amount of the story by now if you've been seeing or reading my community posts, because I did post like from May until late last year, like updates on my health and like what was going on. But I know most people don't read community posts, I think. Yeah, so if you saw that, you'll probably know a decent amount of the story, but I'm assuming most of you did not look at my community posts or my community tab. I don't really do that myself either for channels I watch. Um, but yeah, let's get into what happened, and at the end I'll discuss like where I'm at right now and where I'll be going from here and what I'll be doing with this channel. So things really started back in, let's say, December of 2024. I remember getting sick. I still am a little sick right now, so if my voice sounds a little weird, that could be why, or maybe it's the mic settings. I don't know. So I got sick in December of 2024. I had already been sick once that year already in August, and that one lasted quite a while because I got the flu in August, and then it turned to bronchitis, and then I dealt with that for like 2 months, and it was horrible. Anyways, I went through the whole of November and part of October, you know, not being sick anymore. My cough was gone. It was great. Part of the way, probably like a week into December, and in the middle of my finals, because I had started college, my first semester of college in fall of 2024, I got a cold, unfortunately. And I remember when I got the cold, I suddenly, like, if you think, like, probably the first day it's cold, I felt this, like, when I would swallow, I would feel something on the side of my throat, like, on the right side of my throat, like a little lump. I didn't know what that was, and I still don't know what it is, to be honest. Spoiler alert. Um, no one ever told me or, like, figured anything out about that, but that did lead to, like, other discoveries, I guess. Me mentioning that issue with my doctors later on. Anyways, I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible. Hopefully, I don't ramble too much. I will get into like stories and like story times of like stuff that has happened through this whole journey. On my second channel probably. When I feel like doing that. Anyways, 2024, got sick, felt a lump in my throat. I didn't know what that was. I did tell my parents about it. They weren't sure either. I also started having some like vision issues, which were kind of weird. I didn't tell them about that because I thought maybe my vision was just getting worse or something was off for some reason. I don't know. I just remember looking out the window and I was like, my vision does not look normal. I do wear glasses and my vision does get worse like each year, but it should be slowing down. And I think I had just gotten glasses like a couple months before, so I was like, there's no reason for my vision to be changing right now already this soon. So that was another symptom that was kind of weird that I noticed. But after I got over my cold, which lasted maybe like a week and a half to 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure those symptoms just disappeared. I don't remember noticing them anymore. However, 2 days after I was healed from my cold, I got strep throat, which is just fantastic. I don't know how that happened, but got over one sickness and now I had strep throat. That was horrible. I dealt with it through Christmas. I remember trying to enjoy Christmas as much as I could, but by the end of the night, I was like, no, I really need to go to the doctor and get antibiotics because I was really trying to avoid that. I wanted to try to do some like homeopathic or just do some stuff at home and hopefully my body would like heal from it. But no, that didn't end up happening. It just stayed super bad for a few days. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go to urgent care the day after Christmas. So that happened. Went to urgent care. That was not fun because I guess everyone else decided they were gonna go get checked out right after Christmas too. There was huge wait times at like all the places we went to. We probably went to like 2 or 3 different places. And so I was like, okay, this is not good. I really need antibiotics, but I don't want to sit like for 4 hours in this waiting room with like all these other sick people. So we ended up getting a virtual visit, which I didn't even know was a thing until this time. I just want to say this right here, just because it'll help for the rest of the video. I have not gone to the doctor in like 10 years. Like probably my last time going to the doctor before this was in like 2012. I've been in good health for like my whole life. I've never been hospitalized. I don't think I've ever. I think I've been on antibiotics like once, which was for like an ear infection or something that I got when I was younger. But besides that, I have been good. So this whole thing that ends up happening, you know, through 2025 was quite a surprise for me and my family. So, anyways, back to the story. I get a virtual visit. I tell them my symptoms. They say I can go to like a lab, I think, to get swabbed so they can check if I have strep. So I go there and it comes back. The test comes back a little later, I think in the day, and it says I was positive for strep throat. They gave me antibiotics, and then I took that, and then my strep throat was gone. I do remember having some like side effects from it. Like I felt like towards the end of my it's like a week period of taking antibiotics. I can't remember what it was, but like towards the end of it, the last few days, I remember feeling really nauseous. I think a couple other symptoms. So that was annoying. Anyways, antibiotics over. We're now in 2025. I'm starting my second semester of college, and this time I'm doing it in person because my first semester I did it online just because I signed up super late and like most of the classes were going to be online, and the few that I could try to go to that were not online that I remember they had already like started, so I would be missing like the first day, and I didn't want to do that. So yeah, that's that. Um, so we arrive in 2025. I think it was like the 6th or something. I went to go pick up my books for my classes at college. And so I went to go buy those. And I remember feeling some symptoms and I wasn't sure why. First, I thought maybe it's anxiety because it's like, it's a big thing. I'm going to be going to college in person. I've been homeschooled my whole life. I've never had friends really. It's going to be a big change. So I thought maybe I was having these symptoms because of anxiety. That night, I started experiencing like feeling nauseous. I remember I was like, I think sweating or I had the chills or something or shaking. I'm trying to remember. It's like this part is kind of a blur to me now. I think it was hard for me to breathe and my heart was racing and I was having lots of trouble falling asleep. I remember dealing with this for a couple of days and then I finally told my parents like what was going on. They didn't know what it was. We tried to brainstorm. Maybe it was like because I was already having like some slight issues on antibiotics. Maybe it's from that, but I wasn't on it anymore. Maybe it could be from this or that. Yeah, I don't know. Eventually, I go to see the doctor like towards the end or maybe like mid-January after I had started the semester, and I tell my doctor like what's going on. I also mention the lump in my throat because I started feeling that again at some point. She runs some blood tests and everything comes back normal. Like it was just a basic blood test though, but everything's normal there. She gets me a referral to see an ENT, I believe, and then also gets me a referral to get an ultrasound on my throat to see what's going on there. So I continue going through the semester, feeling lots of anxiety, but I don't understand why though, because I've never been anxious my entire life. I know this was a big change, like going to college and all that, but I expected if I did have any anxiety going into it, it would just be for like, the first couple days, maybe just like the first week, like just going to the certain classes for the first time or whatever. Because one class I did have to present stuff basically every time. So, I thought I mean I was be nervous for this and whatever. And then also nervous when I started going to this Christian club because I wanted to make friends and it was hard to make friends in class. So I started going there and I was extremely anxious every time I went to those things. It was annoying though because I didn't know why. It was like uncontrollable and like anytime I felt like anxious during my life, it would be like for a moment or for a short period of time, maybe for that day. I don't know. Not like how it was during the semester of college. I basically had it the entire time. Towards the end, it was getting better because I was like trying to work on things. I looked up like therapists and stuff on YouTube and tried to learn some stuff and also asked my mom for like tips and whatever. And, I prayed about it and stuff got better towards the end, but for the majority or for the whole semester basically, the whole spring semester of my college, I dealt with anxiety. It was not fun. I could really feel it in my chest like whenever it was time to present or I was going to the Christian club and seeing people there or attending the club or whatever. I would get like super nauseous, sweaty, shaking. Yeah, it was not fun. It made it very difficult for me to like go through all of that. So I did eventually just end up dropping that one class where I did have to present things just because I was like, this is too much for me. But yeah, while I'm going through like dealing with anxiety at school, I'm also having all these other symptoms that I'm getting more and more of throughout the months. So in January, I had like the anxiety started and like the issues with the vision and the throat issue came back. But as months went on, I started experiencing more things. I don't remember everything because sometimes I would have something for like a couple weeks and then it'd be gone, and then I would have this other thing for a couple weeks, and it was very annoying. It was just very annoying. Throughout this whole time, though, I'm going to see my doctor. I went to the ENT. I got an ultrasound in my throat. They didn't see anything in the spot I was telling them. But they thought they saw something on the left side, which was the side that I wasn't feeling anything. And they did find a nodule on that side when they did another ultrasound. I didn't want to get I didn't want to get a biopsy because that just felt like it was unnecessary in my opinion. I will be following up with my ENT in April or a different ENT in April, and we're gonna get is it April or maybe that's when I get another ultrasound. I don't know. They said they don't think it'll shrink, but like because of stuff that I've been doing for my health, I think it will shrink because I don't really feel it anymore. Because I could at one point I could like feel it if I touch my neck because there's like a nodule on the left side of my neck, but I don't feel it anymore. So, and then I got another ultrasound for something at some point, and then they had seen the nodule, and either they entered in the wrong numbers or it had shrunk because it went from like 3.5 to 2.5 or something. I forgot. So yeah, that's pretty good. Anyways, back to the main story. Months are going on. I'm experiencing more issues, more symptoms. Nothing's getting better. I get sick multiple times throughout 2025. Then I got sick again in January, and then February, and then also March. I don't think in April, and then in May as well. At one point, just like I was dealing with so much stuff, and another family member of mine had been dealing with other symptoms that ended up being quite similar to mine, from what we can understand. I won't go into that because I'm just gonna tell my story here. I don't want to like give out too much details to random people on the internet, but one of my family members ended up getting some really severe symptoms starting last year, or not last year, starting in 2024 as well, but it really got bad in February of 2025. So my family was dealing with that. And at the same time, I'm having issues that are just getting worse. So I think at one point, yeah. one point in February, I ended up going to the hospital or the ER because I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. My doctor hasn't figured anything out. Maybe the people at the ER can help. We told them everything. We told them like what was going on with my family member, and they were like, okay, well, they just did like an X-ray, and they drew blood, and they let me go home because they're like, I don't think it's anything serious. So, yeah, I continued with life, continued living with the symptoms I was having. See, I don't really remember the early symptoms. I'm like forgetting them right now. I know I should have written down more stuff, and I think I did write down some things, but yeah, I had lots of symptoms, but a lot of them like didn't like easily connect. There wasn't like anything cut and dry, like, oh, you have this, and this, which means you have anxiety, or you have this type of cancer, or you have this or that, or this autoimmune disease. So that made things very confusing for the doctors. In April or March, I ended up going to the hospital again. I went to the ER. This time it was at a like learning or a higher tier hospital. So there were students there. So I was told they were more likely to like admit me or be able to figure out what's wrong because no one's figuring out what's wrong so far. And I had seen other specialists at this point besides ENT. So I go into the ER. I go through triage, which is where they ask you all the questions or whatever. I tell them all the symptoms I'm experiencing, and then the guy, like, I could like feel it, like what he was gonna say, but he like looked at me and he was very dismissive. But he was like, yeah, we'll check, I guess. You know, I don't remember his exact words anymore. I kind of blocked that out, but I could tell he wasn't really believing what I was saying, or he didn't really care because it was like nothing was like adding up, and also I'm a young female, and you know they're like, yeah, you should be healthy. There's no reason why I should be having these issues, or you know, they. Uh, I learned like, I don't know how to say this, but I don't know. Hospitals, doctors seem to have issues with like younger females and thinking they're doing things that they're probably not. Um, if you know, you know. Just basically, I guess like wanting attention. I think, is what people thought. Anyways, so they do blood work. I sit in the waiting room for a while. The guy comes back. He gives me a piece of paper. And I had actually mentioned something to him, like during triage. I mentioned that my family member was having these certain issues, and I think he had already gotten diagnosed with something at this point. And so I mentioned that. He came back and he was like, oh, we checked for autoimmune diseases because my family member was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And he was like, yeah, you're good. And I was like, okay, yeah, you just lied to my face because you did not check for that. You can't just like check for that in an hour like the way he did. He just checked for the normal stuff, you know, your normal levels, your normal vitamins, whatever, your blood counts, all that. That's all they checked for. They did not check for autoimmune. They did not do the autoimmune panel. That takes time, a lot more than 1 hour. So, yeah, I was like, okay, that was great. I walked out of there. I remember expecting that I would get admitted or like some sort of help because my mom had come there with me, but she had to leave. I remember walking out there and I called my mom. I was like, I just got discharged, or like I just got like kicked out, not kicked out, but you know, they said I'm ready to go, and she was surprised. And I was surprised too. Like I could not believe I got that kind of treatment there. It's supposed to be one of the better hospitals, and just the way they dismissed me and like lied to me and said they checked for stuff when they didn't. So yeah, I don't think he knew that I knew that that's not possible to check for autoimmune diseases like that. But whatever. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not getting help, so I'll just keep doing what I can at home, which was basically just eating healthy. I was taking some supplements, you know, trying to stay more hydrated, just doing what I could to what I thought would help me, like my body fight whatever was fighting and recover from whatever was going on with my body, and I would be back to normal. But yeah, when I made that video in February where I came back and said I would upload and stuff, I was having health issues, but I was like optimistic and like thinking I'll be fine. I'll recover from whatever this is. I don't know what's going on, but the doctors can figure it out. I'll be fine. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I just kept getting worse and worse as time went on. And then comes May. I just finished my spring semester. Remember, I was at a party. I went to a party for like all the clubs at the college. So I went there with my friends. I did like end up making friends this semester, which was pretty nice. Because I've never really had friends my whole life. So yeah, that happened. That was a good thing. And also, I got straight A's on all my classes, so that was also nice. Got my 4.0 GPA. But I did get sick. I did end up getting a cold. I actually did end up trying to record a video because like from February I didn't actually record anything. Like when I uploaded like my last video, I didn't try to record anything. I don't think so anyway. Until May when I finished that semester, I tried to record a video, like talking about my health issues and stuff. I probably had that video somewhere on my other computer. That would probably explain some things that were going on, or like the symptoms I was having, because I kind of don't really remember many of the random symptoms I was having besides the stuff I mentioned, like the vision issues and the lump in my throat and the anxiety. I was also having like not appetite issues, gut issues. Like, with something was wrong. I remember I'd feel extremely like if I didn't eat within a reasonable amount of time between lunch and dinner. Like I didn't eat dinner at the right time. I remember this one time I felt so hungry. Like I felt like I was gonna pass out. My body felt like it was completely empty and like tight, and I don't know. It was very uncomfortable, horrible feeling. And even after I ate a whole meal, I still felt terrible, and it took a while before like my body figured out I was okay. I ate food. Anyways, yeah, I recorded a video. I plan on making this video and uploading that and like, explaining like why I hadn't. I think that's what the point of the video was. Explain like why I hadn't uploaded in February. It had only been like 3 months or whatever, but still. And I was gonna be going over our like the health issues and like what's been happening. I'd never finished that video because I was sick when I first started recording it, and then I took a break from recording it like part of the way through, and then when I came back to it, which was the next day, which I felt so much worse. Obviously, you always feel worse on the second day of your sickness, and so I didn't feel like finishing that video, and I never ended up finishing that video, because I went through the sickness. I think I had a cold, and that lasted like a couple weeks, and then for like I think it was like a week after my sickness, I was either better, like my symptoms had calmed down, but something else. I started experiencing new issues, which were when I would try to eat, I would feel my throat tightening. It would be hard to swallow my food, and I remember that lasted maybe like a week, and then it was gone for like a couple weeks. I think I maybe mentioned it in passing to my mom when it was going on, and then it was like gone. So I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what that was. I think I'm getting my times wrong because things went really downhill at the beginning of June, and like the semester finished like May 13th or something. So I'm getting my times wrong. Like a week into June is when things got really bad. So yeah, let's just say I dealt with the throat tightness for a couple days at some point, then it stopped, and then it came back. And when it came back, it was horrible. I remember like just not being able to finish meals. I thought maybe I was getting like allergic reactions to different things, because that was also something I was dealing with through this whole thing. Another symptom I totally forgot to mention because I couldn't remember them earlier. But like at the start of January up until now, like I had been having issues with different foods, and like I seemed to be reacting to like tons of different things. I didn't know why. And so yeah, I thought maybe it was the food, so I tried eating different things, and then it came to a point where it was like not possible for me to really eat a meal. So we went to the hospital. We went to another big hospital, like a higher level hospital with a teaching hospital, whatever, hoping that I would get help there, because I was kind of experiencing the same stuff my family member did, which was at one point they couldn't eat anymore either, or they started having trouble eating, and then they reached a point where they couldn't eat anymore. So that was very concerning, very alarming when my parents saw that was happening with me. So I went to the hospital, told them everything that happened, told them how another family member of mine was having similar issues, or did already have similar issues, and where they were now, how they ended up. I did not get admitted at that hospital stay. The neurologists came in and did their little tests. They test like your limbs and do stuff with your eyes and whatever. And they're like, okay, we don't think you have an autoimmune disease. We think you're fine. So I don't really remember what they said when I got discharged at that point. Yeah, I really don't remember what they said when I got discharged, to be honest. But I got discharged. They didn't really do anything useful there. I just kept getting worse. I tried to eat some oatmeal because it was like really soft. We got some different type of oatmeal that was like softer than what I was originally eating. Because I would actually eat oatmeal for like my lunch / breakfast for a good portion of, or maybe the whole of 2025 up to this point. But I couldn't eat that oatmeal anymore, so we tried some softer one. It didn't really work. Then I was eating like applesauce and stuff, and that was still hard. And even if I could eat it, it was like you can't live on applesauce, you know. Anyways, we end up going to our local ER, telling them everything that happened. They end up admitting me, and I will just go over right now, real quick, the symptoms I end up having throughout this time. Like this, let's just say from June until September. Like, main symptoms I was having was trouble swallowing, trouble breathing, lots of numbness and tingling throughout my body at random points, mainly in my arms and legs. Trouble like staying steady, vision issues. I was having blurred vision, and later I ended up having double vision as well. And those are like my main issues, like or main symptoms I can remember right now. If there's more, I'll have them on the screen, or maybe I'll mention them later. So yeah, pretty big things like not being able to breathe properly and not being able to eat. Very serious. So we go to the hospital. They admit me. They do the normal blood tests. I believe I was like low on potassium, so they gave me that. And that's the worst thing. Okay, not being able to eat meant I was always low on potassium because I went to the hospital a lot of times throughout, let's just say June, July. I went to the hospital so many times. It was unbelievable. It was a nightmare. And I remember at the start of it, it almost felt like this wasn't real. Like this, I couldn't believe what my life was. Like how it had suddenly changed so fast. I know I'd been dealing with health issues earlier in the year, like that had gradually gotten worse or changed or whatever. But now things are like really serious, and I it's just it's so hard to explain. But like I remember getting back from the first ER visit and just feeling like this wasn't real because I mean, so much was going on already. Like this was really hard for my family. Having two family members going through serious health issues and not getting proper help through most of this journey. That first hospital visit though, like when we went to the local ER, like everything seemed pretty hopeful. Like they were thinking maybe I had myasthenia gravis because there was like some things that were lining up there. It's a serious condition, if you don't treat it or whatever. But they're like, yeah, it's completely treatable. We'll test this and test this. And the main physician or the main doctor or whatever, I don't know the name anymore. But let's just say the main doctor was like, they came into the room one day and they're like really pushing it and being like, yeah, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get you back to normal, back to going to school, whatever. Everything's going to go well. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I think I stayed at that hospital visit for like a week and a half or so. It felt like a long time, maybe a week, I don't know. They did lots of tests, they did x-rays, they put me under anesthesia and did I can't remember what it was, but they put it like a scope. They did a normal scope of my throat where you're awake, but they just numb it. Very uncomfortable. They did that. They didn't see anything. So they did this other thing where they put something down your throat. I think it's down your throat. Maybe it's through your nose. I don't know. But it goes into like your stomach, all the way down to your stomach. And they were just trying to see like what's wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with my throat. Why am I not able to like eat or swallow or drink? Really. I was very nervous about going under anesthesia though, because I've heard that some people have had bad experiences, but I had my mom there, I prayed and people were praying for me, so I was like, okay, I'll be fine. Got out of that, and they said everything looked fine, besides like some inflammation I had in my stomach. They didn't really address that, and also apparently I had something else going on, but it wasn't related to my swallowing issues, so dead end there. I had x-ray of my neck and chest. I had like a CT scan or an MRI. I don't know. I've gotten like an MRI of a couple different parts, like my head and also my neck/chest. I got a CT scan at different points. Like I went to the hospital multiple times throughout June and July, but nothing was leading anywhere. Test came back negative for myasthenia gravis. During this though, they did give me speech therapy, and I did do a test, like a swallow test. A swallow study is what it's called, and there's also a name for another swallow test they did at one point. Basically, you have you swallow some of this liquid. It's called barium. It's kind of chalky. I don't know how to explain it. And they'll have you swallow just that. Also swallow maybe some applesauce or a cracker with barium on it, and the barium lets them see the food or the liquid go down on an x-ray. So they did that. It was a pretty quick test. They didn't see anything wrong with my swallowing. So the only thing they saw at one point, because I know they did like 2 or 3 swallow tests on me, the only thing I saw was like I would have liquid go back or food go back before like I could trigger the swallow, if that makes sense. Like things were going back too fast and I would trigger the swallow kind of late or something. That's the only thing that you could see. I remember thinking like throughout all this, like the neurologists were the most difficult people for me to deal with, but I liked the speech therapists. Because the neurologists, you think they're smart. They were some of the worst people there, and so did the speech therapists end up being. They didn't think it was neurological, my issues. And then different people dismissed my issues, like whether it was neurology, a doctor, a nurse, speech therapy at the start. Remember one of them, I was like, she's really friendly. She offered to give us a referral to this other neurologist, outpatient, who would specialize in like the stuff I seem to be dealing with. So yeah, we took that route. I saw that neurologist, and things seemed good that day. Even though she saw I was negative for the myasthenia gravis test they had done at that point, she's like, maybe you have, I can't remember what the name is, zero negative zero, or is it starts with the S? I don't know, something. Like you can still have it, but it would, but even if the test said I was negative for it, so he put me on. And this is where some things go south. She put me on 2 different medications. One was prednisone, which is a steroid, and the other one was, I don't remember the name, but it was something else I was taking for this. I had extremely bad reaction to one of the medications, which was the other one, not prednisone, the steroid, the other medication. I remember, it's kind of a blur. Remember, I was just like throwing up constantly. I was feeling so much pain in my stomach, like extreme pain. If I had to say how bad it was, I would say it was like an 8 or 9, but it was terrible pain. I was feeling very tired. I was sleeping like through the whole entire day, basically, for a couple days. We knew there were side effects to the medication, and my mom was looking it up, and she was like, yeah, there's side effects. But then we started thinking maybe it's not the medication, like I'm not having a side effect from the medication that like wear off, and I just need to get used to it. Maybe the doctor put me on too much because I don't actually have myasthenia gravis. So the dose she put me on is too much, and now my body is like going into, there's a thing called, what's it called? I'm gonna look it up. I tried looking it up, but I can't even find what I'm trying to talk about. Basically my body was going into shock or whatever from the medication because it was too high. We ended up calling 911 because I didn't feel like I could even get up out of the bed I was laying in, which was downstairs, because I couldn't even go upstairs anymore. Oh yeah, that's the other symptom I was having. Yeah, I was dealing with lots of weakness, so I ended up starting to sleep downstairs, because I couldn't make it up the stairs to my room because I would be so out of breath. So yeah, we called 911. The people came. We told them what was going on, what we thought was going on with me, like what my body was doing, and they ended up like completely ignoring that and like admitting me for like failure to thrive or something, or not. I forgot what it was, but like they completely ignored that. And I remember like later, like the doctor put in, the neurologist we saw outpatient, like put it in her notes, like it was like our fault or my mom's fault, like she gave me too much or something, or it was my fault for taking too much. I was like, are you serious right now? No one. Okay. Okay. Continue the story. I have so much frustration for everything that's gone on, but I keep that for later. So that happens, and yeah, like throughout June and July, I'm just, we're doing what we can to get me help. I keep going back to the local ER because that's who's following me, and like we didn't have much luck at the other hospitals that were supposed to be the higher level hospitals, but they're far away, and it was too much to deal with it at this point. Like, because I already had another family member dealing with stuff, we don't want to have to go far away to a hospital, and I'd have to stay by myself and whatever, because I didn't want to stay by myself at any hospital really, just especially because of how these people were, and also because I reached a point where I could not talk, or I could barely talk. Like they could barely hear me. It was like a whisper, or it was very low. Like since the start of June, or actually maybe a little before that, but like since the start of June, my voice slowly got weaker and weaker and lower until it was like, it was very hard to hear. And then I had people talking, like saying to my face that, oh, your voice sounds great, it sounds fine. And then when I would do the little swallow sessions with the speech therapist, they would give me like water to sip and like some applesauce, and I would take the tiniest sips or bites of whatever it was, and I would swallow it. They're like, look, you can swallow, you're doing great. And I remember one time the speech therapist came over to my hospital room, and she wanted me to eat this little cup of peaches, right? And it took me an hour to finish that thing. And she sat there and watched me that entire time eat this stupid thing. And she's like, look, you can eat. I'm like, it took me an hour to eat a cup of peaches. That's like 50 calories. That's not enough to sustain me. I was dying. I was slowly dying. Or not slowly. It's only a couple months. I lost 30 pounds from the beginning of June until the end of July because they would not do anything. Like, we tried to figure out what was wrong. Like, they didn't know what was wrong with me. It got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm fine with having like a feeding tube or something. They didn't want to do that. because I didn't have a diagnosis, so they said they didn't do that. Or also because they said they don't let people go home with feeding tubes. Which is interesting because this other hospital for kids, they let people go home with feeding tubes. They let the parents change out the feeding tubes. The feeding tube situation would become an absolute nightmare, which I'll get into. This video is already so long, so I'm very sorry, but I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible and also explain some of the things that are going on. I could tell more stories, but I'll save those for a different time. So, dude, I got poked so many times throughout this whole journey, but also mainly during June and July. There was one point I was going to the ER like every other day because I needed more potassium. I felt like I was dying, and I was dying. It reached a point where it was like hard for them to even like access my veins, just because they would always say, "Oh, it's because you're dehydrated," but I'm like, my veins are always small. My veins are small. Yes, I probably was dehydrated as well. It's not the main issue though. And they also poked me so many times, so it was hard for them to get a vein sometimes, and I get poked like 7 times in a row. They have to call someone else to come in, or use the vein finder machine, or get a ultrasound machine and try to find a vein. It was painful. That was very painful. That was horrible to go through. So it made me hate going to the hospital more and more. And then they needed to poke me every like once a day in the morning. That's when they did labs. So they would check my labs every morning. That's what they do at the hospitals. And also, they need to get an IV in to give me fluids throughout the day, and also to give me whatever I needed supplemented. So, like, potassium. Potassium was the worst. Potassium burned so much when it was going in, and everyone had their own way of, like, fixing it or having it hurt less. Someone just gave me, like, an ice pack. I'm like, this is not really doing anything. Eventually, someone was like, oh, we can, like, have the potassium go in at the same time as, like, the normal IV fluids, and so it would be diluted and it wouldn't hurt as much. And then you could also add an ice pack and then also slow it down, and then there we go. It's not as bad. I also learned that if the IV was like put in lower, like in my hand, it was gonna burn a lot more compared to if it was put in my arm, like higher in my arm, or just like the normal part they usually stick you in. So yeah, but sometimes I couldn't get an IV in higher up, so they did lower, and then that was obviously made potassium a lot worse. But I was getting potassium basically every time I went to the hospital. That was low, and sometimes they gave me other stuff that I might have been low on. And yeah, let's just say like mid-July, we had been going to the same local hospital. They're not doing anything, so we decided to try out other hospitals. We went to like, I don't know, 4 different ones. Each one seemed less useful than the last one. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm trying to say something, but it's not coming out right. I don't know. Each hospital seemed to get worse and worse. Like at one of these hospitals, the doctor told me they were gonna give me something, or they had something they could give me that would help with my swallowing. So the nurse came in and started putting it into my IV, and I was like, real quick, what is this? What are you giving me? And she's like, oh, it's something for anxiety. And I was like, that's not what the doctor told me. So basically, they lied to my face about what they were giving me, or the doctor did, because I don't know, they thought I had anxiety. That was a huge thing going through this whole situation. Surprisingly, my anxiety disappeared in May. Like after I graduated, it was gone. And I had maybe like 1 or 2 times like throughout since May until now where I've been anxious about something, but it would be like for a day or like for a moment, like, oh, I'm going to this thing, I'm a little anxious, whatever. But my anxiety had been gone. I was feeling no stress because they kept saying, thinking I had stress. I had a lot of pushback and like people pushing me to see a psychiatrist, because they had basically done everything they could at the local ER. You know, I had seen all our specialists there, I'd done all our tests, and so they were like, the last thing we have is psychiatry. At this point, I didn't have good experience. Well, not personally me, but my family member did not have good experience with psychiatry, or the best experience, like with the drugs that were put on. And also because of how this hospital had ended up turning out to be, like as time went on, I trusted this hospital less and less, and just the way people acted towards me, things they said to me, the lies they told me, dismissing my real symptoms and saying like it was in my head, and you know, maybe it was anxiety, maybe I had depression, maybe I was stressed, you know, this and that, maybe I had a conversion disorder and I was mirroring my family member because he had these things, or maybe I was having these issues because he was having these things and I started getting stressed. So much useless stuff was coming out of these people's mouths, and it was not helping me at all, because they would write stuff in their notes. The next doctor who would come to see me would read their freaking notes, and then they would have all these thoughts in their head before they would come into the room and speak to me. So yeah, it was extremely, extremely frustrating. I'm like, guys, I don't feel anxious, depressed, stressed. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I feel traumatized because of all of you. That's what I'm feeling. I did not tell them that, of course, but I mean, they're the ones who were giving me more mental issues than they think I'm having. So, yeah, we tried different hospitals. They were useless. The last hospital I tried, I think they stuck me like in the arm like 13 times. I remember I counted. It was 13 or 14. They could not get an IV in. And then I think they just left it like partly inside. Like it was like not working IV, but they left it there. And then I ended up getting discharged, so I took it out. But I was like, that was horrible. So much pain. And they have to have an IV in you, like as a policy for all these places, like all these hospitals. So that's probably why they left it in me. But it was like really annoying. We left that place and we had one last option, which was an appointment with a GI doctor. I believe a GI doctor. Yeah, pretty sure. On the 29th of July or something. I had an appointment with a GI doctor, and they were the person who would be able to give me a feeding tube. Because that's the thing I was told when I was inpatient. I was at a point where I was like, I just need a feeding tube. I just need something. I need to eat. I lost 30 pounds. I had become underweight. I was malnourished. I was like, at one point, I was like, maybe they're not doing anything because, I have to reach a certain point. I know they told me they weren't doing anything because I didn't have a diagnosis. It's like, maybe once I'm malnourished, I'm underweight, they'll do something. So we go to this appointment because, all the hospitals, we tried different hospitals, and the main hospital we were going to, they said they couldn't do it, told me to go outpatient. They don't let people leave the hospital with a feeding tube, blah, blah, blah. So we go outpatient, see the GI doctor, we talk to her, and she's basically like, there's nothing I can really do for you. Like, she told us, like, oh, you need to go back inpatient. I'm like, well, we just got out of the hospital that morning, and now we're seeing you in the afternoon. We are not going back inpatient. Like, I need a feeding tube. I'm underweight. I was probably like 101 pounds at this point. Very, very bad. I was dying. Each day that passed, I was dying more and more. Are you allowed to say that on YouTube? I don't know, but it's the truth. She told me to go inpatient, and that was annoying. June and July, I remember a good deal of stuff that happened, but at the same time, a lot of it's a blur just because I felt so horrible. Like, imagine going through 2 months almost of eating basically nothing. Yes, I was trying to eat throughout the entire time, but I was only able to get in like a couple ounces of juice or a few bites of this. Or I remember there was one week where I was able to eat. Maybe it was less than a week. I don't know. I was able to eat soft foods without chewing. It was like amazing. We thought, well, we're going the right direction. But then it suddenly changed, and I was not able to swallow it again. And I don't know what happened there. I don't know why I was able to start swallowing things again, and why it suddenly stopped. It was very disappointing, but it happened at some point in June or July. I don't remember. But yeah, no one was helping us. I was dying. I felt horrible every single day. I felt so weak. Could barely get up to go to the bathroom or like change my clothes. However, I have a relative who is a registered nurse who has put in hundreds of feeding tubes. So we called them up and had them put in a feeding tube for me. Feeding tube, just so you know, getting a feeding tube in, it goes in through your nose, down your throat, into your stomach. It is extremely uncomfortable, and you will gag a lot. Or at least I do. I probably had it put in like 4 different times, maybe 5. I don't even remember anymore. I would gag a lot, and like each one got worse. Like I would gag, and sometimes, like I think the last time I had it put in, I thought I would throw up, but I didn't. I survived. Anyways, yeah, my relative put one in because no one else was. My relative put in hundreds of feeding tubes. It was easy to do. It was safe. That hospital I mentioned earlier, or I mentioned something earlier where they let it's a children's hospital. They let the kids go home and let the parents change out the feeding tubes themselves on their children. And so absurd to me where all the other hospitals are like, no, we can't do that. That's dangerous. This can happen. That can happen. And I was like, what? But you have this other hospital was letting I don't know. Okay, I don't know. So that got put in. I was extremely nauseous afterward, and for the next 2 weeks, I was like so nauseous and like miserable because I hadn't eaten in a while. I was getting like feedings through that now. I was actually getting food, but it's a foreign object, a foreign thing inside your body. So my body was very much not liking it. I was nauseous a ton for the first couple of weeks, but I was getting food now. I remember several different doctors saying like, oh, you're having this symptom or you're feeling this way because you're not getting food. But I started getting food through this tube, and I'm still feeling the same way. Like, it didn't make me feel bad. Like, I didn't feel like I was dying anymore in a way, because I was getting food now, but it didn't improve things like they told me it was. Yeah, those were just excuses from them, or just ignorance or not knowing what they were talking about. So yeah, I had that tube in. Turns out, well, little did I know, that would make my life very difficult because the doctors who saw me were very upset with this. They did not like that I had a tube in. Because at one point I did go to the ER. I don't remember why I went to the ER. But I went to the ER, I had a tube in. They're like, who put this in? And we're like, oh, this person did. They're not happy with that. They're like, they should not be doing that. This is that. And I'm like, well, they're a nurse. They're trained in this. They have more experience than everyone in this hospital probably combined. They're like, no, this is dangerous. This could happen. It was so annoying with how many times they told me it was so dangerous and it was horrible that we did this. I'm like, guys, one of the things they kept saying was like, it could go in your lung, like the tube. I'm like, well, that's while you're placing it. If you know how to place it correctly, it's not gonna go in your lung. So like once it's placed, it's fine. There's ways to check placement to make sure it's not in your lung, and you would know if it was in your lung. And it's not like once it's in my stomach, it's gonna suddenly slither up and go into my lung, like one of my lungs. Like what are you guys saying here? Anyways, that was frustrating. But they decided to make life. I don't know how much I want to say or I can say on here, but they decided to make life so freaking difficult after they learned that I had a tube. Mainly like we don't know who did certain things, but the people, we'll just say people got sent to my house, and we don't know who called these people. We can only make guesses, but I'm pretty sure it's people who I thought were, at the start, who I thought were like on my side. Because there was a lot of people who are like, no, I already knew they were terrible. They were not helping me. They were downplaying things. But there were certain people at the start who I was like, oh, they're on my side. They're gonna help me. Blah blah blah. But they ended up being like the worst people imaginable. And I can tell more stories about that, or to some degree, in the future. On my second channel. Go subscribe to that. I'll have that linked in the description. Wow, I've been talking for a while. Yeah, they made a huge fuss over me having a feeding tube. Like, guys, I don't understand. Like, they took it out when I went to the ER at one point. I don't remember why I had to go to the ER, but they took it out. It was so frustrating. And then, like, the nurse came in a couple hours later and, like, actually, you're gonna hate me for this, but I need to put another one in. Like, they want me to put another one in. And I was like, no. Do you have any idea how uncomfortable that is to get put in? And now you want to put another one in, and I don't even know if I can leave with this because you guys keep saying I can't. Yeah, I was frustrated. That was not a good hospital stay, that one. So I was like, no, I'm not getting another one put in. Not here, not right now. I feel like I'm missing some big things. Yeah, I think those are other stories I can tell at different times, to be honest. August, I had the tube put in. I had it for some weeks, like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. I don't actually know. Took it out, and then I think we had it put back in by my relative because I need food. And then, they were mad about that again and blah, blah, blah. So then September comes. I get a call from my doctor who, she's been useful through all of this. She's been doing whatever she can to help me. Obviously, she's just a doctor, like a normal doctor you go see. So there's only so much she can do. Basically, she's been giving me like referrals to a million different places and people, whatever. Basically, she talked to risk management because they opened up a case for me because of this stupid little tube. And they wanted me to go into my local ER, and they were going to place one in approved by them. I was not happy about this. I was very upset because I'm like, I got this whole case open. You've already sent people to my house. I don't know if I can trust you guys. Like, you guys have already been lying to my face tons of times. Like, why would I go there? But I basically had no choice. Like, people were to keep showing up at my house if I decided not to go. So I had to agree to go there. So I went there. They took my tube out, and they were like, well, actually, I don't think they took my tube out immediately. Because at first I was like, I need to know, or I want to know, can I leave this hospital when you put the tube in? Because on the phone call when my doctor told me this and that, she was basically saying they will let you go, or she thinks they'll let me go. When I got there, they're like, well, policy, we can't let you go. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just leave then. Like, why would I stay here and have you put in a tube and whatever? I did leave against medical advice, AMA, one other time for a different reason, and that messed up a bunch of stuff. And I thought it was the end of the world because it was a rough time. I'll go through that story a different time. And I was thinking of doing that again, but then they said they had to talk to the higher ups and see if they could do that. But I don't really remember how things went, but I think I agreed to like let them put a tube in, and it took like 2 or 3 days. Like they took the tube out. I had no tube. In 2 or 3 days, I was just stuck, hungry, because I couldn't eat. And the reason why was because, like, oh, we don't have a person to put the tube in right now, or they're busy. Like, it was basically, according to them, it was like one person in the ICU at this hospital could put the tube in. No one else could. found out later from my relative who's a nurse, this is a lie because going through nursing, you're supposed to be able to know how to put a tube in, and it doesn't matter if it's your first time. You should be able to put the tube in. You should know how to. You can ask someone, maybe you can ask a doctor, maybe look something up, whatever they have, resources they have. But like, you should know how to put that tube in. You should be able to put that tube in. Someone in this hospital, besides that singular ICU nurse, should know how to put a tube in. I should not be waiting 2 or 3 days for you to come to my room and put this tube in so I can eat. Do I tell this whole story right now? I feel like I'm just dragging on this video. Long story short, they put the tube in, but I stayed longer because they wanted to make sure there was no refeeding issue, which is like, it didn't make sense because I'd already been having tube feeds for the past like month. But I was like, okay, I have to comply and do this. I stayed for a few days for that. I was like, it was like 3 days. And then weekends are so annoying at the hospital because like weekends, like certain people don't come to the room anymore. Like certain doctors are like, they're just not there. So they're like, yeah, so we're gonna have to wait until Monday to like figure out if we can discharge you or if we're going to. Stuff ended up happening and stuff went up to the higher ups, like the CEO of this hospital or whatever, just so I could figure out if I could leave with this stinking feeding tube. And they were like, yeah, actually there is no policy. We could have, it's just like a case by case thing. We can decide if you can leave. Like, what? The whole time you've been telling me there's a policy or I can't leave because of this. But this whole time, I could have. There was no reason for you to. It's just, yeah. Anyways, yes, I did end up leaving with the feeding tube. Wow, that was a bad hospital stay. I just remembered something else. How could I forget the other thing that happened? Okay, that's a whole huge story. I'll tell in a different video. I left the hospital with an approved tube. Yay. Amazing. Horrible things happened towards the end of that hospital stay with this other, not even doctor. It was a speech therapist. Very dismissive, very rude, very just horrible towards me about my condition. Well, I was not diagnosed anything at this point, but she basically said it was all in my head. That was, yeah. Anyways, she said it was not neurological, and she said it was not this and that. I'm like, you're just saying, you're like, so are you like a specialist in like neurology, in autoimmune disease, in this and that? And next thing, like, I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know you wore all these hats. Like, what? Next day, I get a call from the doctor. Actually, I get discharged from the hospital. It is the next day, though. I get discharged from the hospital. I go home. They're setting up home health stuff, so, like, I can get, like, therapies and stuff at home. There's a nurse who'd be coming over, and then there was someone there who was going to show us how to use the pump for the feeding tube. They were at the house. Everything was getting set up, and then we got a call from a different hospital I went to. I totally forgot. At some point, I went to the ER at the big hospital again. The big hospital, the teaching hospital. I've been there a couple times at this point. Like, throughout this, maybe like 3 times up to this point. One time I was admitted. The other 2 times I was not. I believe. Yeah, that last time I was not admitted. But they did, for some reason, send in, like, I don't think we mentioned it, but they sent in a panel to check for autoimmune diseases. And so we got a call back when I got discharged from the local ER. They said, we want to see you. We want you to come to the hospital. One of the results to come back positive. So went to another hospital that same day, and I was actually kind of excited. I was like, wait, am I actually going to get some treatment? Did they actually figure out what's wrong? I go to the hospital. Long story short, they do a bunch of different tests. They do a spinal tap, which very uncomfortable, but had to be done to check for other things. They diagnosed me with Hashimoto's encephalopathy. It's with the symptoms I've mentioned, and I think it's that. Like, they don't know. Like, they don't know for 100%, but they're like, we think it's this, so we're gonna treat it with high-dose steroids. So they do like 3 days or the 5 days. Let's just say 5 days of high-dose steroids in the ER or in the hospital. I got admitted. It's through the IV, and then after that, I was on a steroid taper. So for 6 weeks, which is kind of long to be honest, I was on steroids for 6 weeks after that. After I was discharged, and each week I would go down by a certain amount. So yeah, I really thought, we got somewhere. The steroids were gonna help me. They figured out what was wrong. I was gonna go back to normal, but I was wrong. The 6 weeks of steroids was like some of the worst weeks of my entire life. Like, it felt like hell. Like, it was just so terrible. My symptoms were getting worse each day, and I did, like, my nurse told me to go call 911 at some point through the steroids. So, like, me being on steroids and just, like, getting worse and worse. Okay, when I was super bad, as my steroids went on, towards the end of my steroid, it was extremely hard to breathe. Like, I would have chest tightness, heaviness. I would feel so much pressure in my neck, like I was being choked. I would feel pressure in my head. So hard to swallow. Like at some points, it was even hard to swallow my saliva. I basically lost my voice. My whole upper body felt so heavy. I was being weighed down. I was very weak. I would get tired really fast. So I was basically in a recliner like for the whole day during my steroid stuff going on. I would be just living in a recliner the whole day. Like I would be either on my laptop or on my phone, but it was even hard to do that because it was like hard to focus on anything because I felt miserable. In the first, I know I'm kind of getting off topic. I was supposed to talk about something about going to the ER, but real quick. For the first half of my steroids, it did a lot to my mental state, my mental health, I should say. I felt so much anger and frustration and irritation, like super emotional. It was a really hard time, just the whole steroid period. This whole thing has been hard. The whole 2020, like from May to like November was extremely hard. But steroids was probably the worst. I don't know. Maybe dying was pretty bad too. I don't know. I didn't die, but the 2 months of like losing weight. Anyways, I remember I would just try to find something to like take my mind off of what was going on. I would play mobile games. I would be on YouTube or Twitch. I tried playing Minecraft, but eventually I gave up on that because I just couldn't find it enjoyable, and also because I felt like I was getting irritated at every little thing someone said to me. Like if someone said, "How are you?" I would be like, "No, no, 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 not right now. Do not ask me that question. I feel horrible." And there was people who were trying to like relate to me or like trying to compare like something they've had going on in life with something I'm having right now or like what I was going through, and they're like trying to what's the word, sympathize, empathize, whatever. And that really annoyed me because I was like, no, we have different things going on here. I feel like I'm dying. I'm going through so much, and you're talking about this time you were sick in the hospital for like 2 weeks, or this time you broke a bone, or whatever. Yeah, I was super frustrated, and it did a lot on my mental health. The steroid did a lot more that I will not go into. But yeah, so I kept getting worse though while I was on the steroid, and I didn't know if it was from the steroid or my condition was getting worse, and the steroid was like taking time to kick in. They did say it would get worse before I would get better, so I was like, okay, that doesn't sound great, but I mean, they barely told me anything when they put me on a steroid. Like when I left the hospital, they were like, "Oh, you might get a little irritated with your mom or with your family. You might, feel this or feel that." But they never really got into how horrible it would be. I went to the ER at one point because like my breathing was getting worse, and I had a nurse coming every week to like check up on like my vitals and stuff. She's like, "You should call 911." So I did end up doing that. I went to the ER. I'm trying to think, is this during that time? I don't know. I went to the ER. I just ended up getting discharged. I didn't do anything, which is what I expected. At one point, I don't remember when, I started experiencing more issues like during the steroid. But at one point, my mom was thinking maybe I had this other condition that my other family member had that they had been diagnosed with during this period. Like looking at it from like a general view, I was like, there's no way I have that. People are not going to believe I have that, even if I think I do. The thing we thought I had was catatonia. I don't remember how this became a subject of concern that I could have it, because catatonia, I mean, you can look it up. Most people picture like someone who is like not really moving, just like staring off into the distance. They can't do this, they can't do that, whatever. I was not like that. But there's different types of catatonia, and not everyone's the same. Yeah, I remember towards the end of my steroids, we started talking about this. My steroid ended at the end of October. The day after that, I went to go see. Actually, maybe I went to the hospital before I finished my steroid. I think I did. I don't know. At one point, I went to the hospital, told them about my concerns for catatonia. They saw I had some upcoming appointments happening. I finally agreed to talk to a psychiatrist because they're the ones who specialize in catatonia and can diagnose it. I saw the psychiatrist at the higher level hospital because no way was I seeing a psychiatrist at that horrible local hospital we had. No way. Never. So I finally saw a psychiatrist. My mom had to mainly speak for me because I couldn't speak at this point, or I could like speak, but it was a whisper. I couldn't really hold a conversation like that. So, she told him everything I was going through, some of the new symptoms I was having, like some stiffness. I would hold positions for a long period of time. Like I would have my hand to my side for like hours, or my hand behind my head for hours. It was really strange, but it's a symptom of catatonia, and it had just like kind of started happening. And I was also having like autonomic issues, like with my temperature. Like I would get really hot sometimes out of nowhere, or feel really cold. I was having issues with my heart rate going up a ton. And the doctors at some places, they were like, oh, it's just because you have a feeding tube or this and that. And then I remember the ER doctor, after I saw the psychiatrist and I saw neurology, and they were like, you have an appointment already with neurology. I don't think there's any issues. I don't think you have catatonia, blah, blah. I think that's what she said. I don't remember everything she said, but whatever. I didn't really like her. I didn't like the ER doctor either because she came in and said all this stuff because she read notes from people, and she came in at the end to give us our papers to say I was getting discharged, and we asked about like my issues with my heart rate going up, and we're like, well, I had an EKG. Was it normal? Can I get an ECG, basically a ultrasound of your heart? And she was like, oh no, your heart's fine. Your heart rate's fine. There's no issues there. We get discharged. My results come into my phone like 10 minutes later. I read the EKG and it says tachycardia, and my heart rate was at 129. I was like, that's not normal for resting. And this lady over here told me it's fine. You don't need an EKG or ECG. Your EKG was fine. Like, bro, what is it with these people lying to your faces? Anyways, that happened. Then I end up seeing my neurologist at the very end. Like when I completely finished my steroids. I saw my neurologist like the day after, I think it was. And he was like, well, since your steroids didn't really do anything, because I felt like they did nothing. Or I felt like maybe they did like 10% of something, but maybe actually didn't do that. Maybe it was my body that was healing something and the steroid did nothing. Which was my big fear when I first started steroids. I was like, first I was super excited, but then when I noticed things were going downhill, I was like, I hope I don't go through this horrible time, this horrible 6 weeks, and nothing happens. Unfortunately, that's what happened. I went through 6 weeks of what felt like suffering, and nothing happened. And he noticed that. He was like, maybe you got 10% fixed from this thing, but he expected 95% better. Because I wasn't 95% better, he's like, well, there's nothing else I can do at this point for your Hashimoto encephalopathy diagnosis. So, I'm going to diagnose you with neurological... Okay, the diagnosis is kicking my brain right now. Neurological... I can't remember. Why can't I remember what it is? Okay, it's some neurological thing. But basically, it's just like a blanket one they'll give to like people who like can't figure out what's wrong. Yeah, they diagnosed me with that, and I'm like, okay, great. And, the treatment it's just CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. How in the world is it gonna heal me from my physical issues? We're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Diagnose me. I'll look into getting therapy. Goodbye. A few days later, I think it was November 6th, I had an appointment with, actually no, it had come time for me to get my tube switched out, I think. Yeah, this either happened before or after this appointment, this neurology appointment I just told you about. I had to get my tube switched out because you can only have it for a certain amount of time before they have to switch it out, put a new one in. Boy, did they make that hard. Apparently, they never put an order in when they discharged me from the hospital. Never put an order in for like a new tube. They had orders for like x-rays because they want to x-ray it after they put the tube in. They had no orders, and no one wanted to take charge and say, okay, let's put an order in, let's do this. No one wanted to take charge. So my doctor was like, we might have to take it out. And I was like, what? I can't eat. And I remember she said, I was very frustrated at this call, or during this, it was virtual call thing. She was like, maybe having the tube out will help you, motivate you to eat. I'm like, that's not the issue here. I don't need motivation to eat. I can't eat. My throat is weak. It's extremely hard to swallow. It's hard to move things back, do the swallow function, get things down. My throat was weak. I feel like I can't, do whatever. And then also having breathing issues just makes eating even harder. So that's a whole story, to be honest. I'm not going to go into all that, but getting the tube changed out was not fun. I thought, maybe there's a chance it wasn't going to happen, but went to this other hospital because I had an appointment with a psychiatrist there early November. And we're like, okay, let's try out this hospital. Let's see if it's good. It's a different hospital. I'm not going back to my local hospital. It's terrible. They didn't want to take charge of that place. Like, the people who worked there, they didn't want to take charge of it. So I'm like, why would I go there? Go to this other hospital. The doctor goes over everything, and we talk, and then he's like, I can put a tube in for you. And I was like, what? Because, doctors are not the ones who put the tubes in. It's nurses. The doctor was like, I can do it. I've only put one in before. You'll be my second person, but I can do it. So it wasn't a fun experience because some things went bad, but I got a new tube in. That's what matters. I'll tell that story a different time. Anyways, psychiatry appointment comes up early November. It was like November 6th or 7th or something. I go there, tell them about my catatonia concerns. He does some tests. He's like, okay, based on the test results, it was kind of like, what's the word? It was nothing definite. There was nothing, there was no yes or no for yes, I have it, or no, I definitely don't have it. it was inconclusive basically from the tests and the scoring he gave me on the like little tests he did for me. So they're gonna trial me on Ativan or lorazepam, whatever you want to call it. It's a anxiety drug, but it is also used for people with catatonia. So they had me go through. It's called an Ativan challenge, where they give you 1 dose or 1 milligram of Ativan, and they see how you react. I wasn't going to do it like inpatient, where I do it through IV, where you would see like the results within like minutes. They said I could do it in office or do it at home. We decided I would do it at home, so I took the Ativan through my tube and then waited to see if anything would happen. Well, at first I wasn't noticing anything. Then I was noticing my head kind of felt like I had fogginess, or my body kind of felt off. I don't know. It was something was feeling weird. But after some time, my mom was like, "Do you want to try some food?" And I was like, "Sure," because I didn't really feel like anything was changing, like breathing and stuff. But I was like, "Yeah, I'll try some food." I was able to get like some ounces of some smoothie down. I was like, "Okay, this is something." Next day, we did another Ativan challenge thing, but this time it was on 2 milligrams. And we wrote everything down because he wanted to know all the results, everything we noticed. And I was able to eat like small bits of food. I was able to chew. I was able to swallow. I was not eating a lot, but I was able to eat some foods that we had at home. It was pretty insane. Like, I was very nervous for the test because I was like, what if nothing happens? Because I mean, I already went through 6 months of steroids where nothing happened. And also at this point, I did get my voice back. Like after the steroid finished, I think something like that, or before the steroid finished, like right before the steroid finished, I started getting my voice back. And then when I started getting on Ativan, my voice was coming back more and more. Anyways, tests came back basically from how I was. I was able to eat. I was able to walk around more. I didn't feel extremely tired, which would happen. Like you would feel tired if it was a negative, like you don't have catatonia, or that's what I was told. So yeah, basically I was positive. We told the doctor everything that happened, and he was like, "Okay, you're positive for catatonia based on this test, so we'll put you on Ativan." So I was prescribed medication, and I've been on that over the past couple of months. Since then, I've been slowly healing. My voice is all back. If it sounds weird right now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sick, so that's why it's a little funny. But my voice is all back. I can walk around. I can do things myself. Before, I was like, as I said, in a recliner, sleeping downstairs, just in the recliner 24/7. Besides when I would go to the bathroom, or if I was going to an appointment, or changing my clothes. Okay, editor Alyssa here, just popping in real quick. I realized while I was editing this video that there was something I forgot to talk about that I did want to go over, which is how did me and my family develop these issues? Like, what was the cause? How did this all happen so suddenly? What seemed like really suddenly? Do we know how this happened? Well, the doctors don't know. We've tried to figure it out by ourselves. Just like looking back at stuff that has happened over the past year, and even before that. I feel like it's a combination of three things that I can say right now. The first one is the fact that I kept getting sick so many times in the span of like a year. I think I got sick like 8 or so times in like 10 or 11 months. This includes colds, the flu, stomach bug, strep throat. I think those are all the things I got. But that's a lot of times to get some sort of virus or illness in the span of like less than a year. So I think that's part of it. And the same thing happened to some of my other family members. They also got sick a bunch of times. Second possible contributor to all this happening is mold. Okay, basically, we got a little mold kit that you could use. You put these little, I don't even know what they were. They did the test while I was like slowly dying, but they did show me like briefly like what it was. So my family put like these little pods, these little, I don't know what to call them, into several rooms in our house. You waited a few days and then you come back to it and you can see if something was growing inside of it. Some rooms did have a decent amount of mold or something growing inside after these days passed. The one with the most mold was my room. This is not like a proper test for mold. Apparently, I think there's like another test to like really prove that you have mold. If you were to like, let's say you're renting a place, you would need a certain test done to like show this, whatever. I don't know too much about it. Like, I don't know all the details, but I'll try my best to explain. But yeah, we did see that. So we're like, okay, it could be mold that's like contributing and like affecting the family in this way. How did the mold get there? I mean, there's lots of ways mold can get in your house, but I don't want to get into all the details, but there is a possibility that it happened when we had a repair done for something else in our house, and maybe that opened a pathway for mold to grow. I don't know. And the third and final thing that could have contributed to us having these health issues is all the cornfields we live next to and all the stuff they were spraying, like Roundup or glyphosate or whatever is being sprayed onto these crops, that could have definitely been contributing to all our health issues, because that stuff is just not good for you. I mean, we've heard things over this period of time of like how that can affect you, and obviously, okay, something that we have been doing, like as we've been healing. I used to eat a lot of pasta before. Our whole family used to eat a lot of pasta before this, but as I mentioned earlier, I have myself and also other family members have a lot of issues with eating certain foods now for some reason. Even though I did go to an allergist, did a bunch of tests, and she said I was like the best she's ever seen. Like I have apparently no allergies. My levels for like having certain things or being susceptible to something super low, like the best she's ever seen. So I don't know why I'm reacting to stuff I eat sometimes. Specifically, gluten is a big thing that I react to. But something we've noticed is if we buy pasta imported from Italy or France or somewhere else that isn't like the United States, I'm fine with it for the most part. Me and my family, there have been a couple that we didn't react well to, but for the most part, we were fine with pasta imported from other countries where they probably do not spray, or where I think they do not spray certain things on their crops, like the wheat or the corn and whatever. So I do think that's part of this whole puzzle. I think all three of those things are part of the puzzle. Where we lived, the stuff they're spraying on the crops, we lived around a lot of cornfields, the mold, the possibility of mold in our house, and also me getting sick a bunch of times, and my body just did not have time to repair and just get through another sickness, and also my body being weakened by those other things I mentioned. But yeah, those are the three main things. There's also other things we've thought about, and there's also honestly probably a lot of things that contributed to all this happening. But now we are doing what we can to support our bodies, support our immune systems, help them rebuild our gut, help them to get stronger again, and just never have something like this ever happen ever again. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Back to the video. I have been healing over the past couple of months. I can eat, I can drink. Is it perfect? No. I still have issues. I'm still trying to work through that. I'm not gonna get into everything, but I'm doing a lot better. I am healing. I'm not feeling all this fatigue. I don't feel like I'm able to walk a bunch of steps. That sounds weird. What's a better way to say it? I'm able to do things myself. I can take my own showers. I can get dressed. I can keep up with my hygiene. I can go up and down the stairs as many times as I want. Well, maybe not as many times as I want. That would tire anyone out. But I can go to places. I don't feel like I'm dying every moment of my life. I still have issues. I still have like some issues with drinking, and food isn't always perfect with like eating. Breathing, I've been having more breathing issues lately, so I'm not sure what that is. Could be something I'm eating, something in my environment. I'll talk about that with my psychiatrist soon. But yeah, I feel pretty like free right now because I'm not going to the ER anymore. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going to a million doctor's appointments. It's just basically the only appointments I have right now are psychiatry and my normal doctor. That's it. I do have a couple other appointments scheduled out, but that's not until some months. But yeah, a lot has improved. This has been a very difficult past year because I've had issues and my family member has had issues, and it's taken a big toll on my family as a whole. I felt lots of frustration with the whole medical system. I felt very disappointed in like what I went through. Like I didn't think it would be like that. I didn't think it would be that bad. Even close, like not even close. I thought I would be able to get help in a reasonable amount of time. I didn't think I would be left to die. I didn't think people would treat me the way they did and dismiss me and just lie to my face. But I got through it because of lots of prayer, because of God, because of my family, and also like my friends and people online that I know who have been like supporting me through all of this. Lots of prayer. Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to get through this without having people there for me, or most importantly, having Jesus in my life. Because some days I felt like that was the only thing keeping me going. Like, I won't get into it. I don't know how much you can say on YouTube with certain subjects. So it's personal, but it was very hard getting through all this, and I still have a long way to go. Because this didn't just happen in like a month or even a couple months. This all happened over a period of months, and I had also had some random symptoms show up even in like a year or two before 2025. But I didn't know what to do or why it was happening or whatever caused this. It took a long time to happen and to reach this point, or reach the horrible point it did, which means it'll also take a while to recover from all of this. So I'm doing everything I can to heal, with taking the medication that I've been prescribed, and also doing other things for myself to keep healthy and getting support from my family and all the help I can get with improving my health and all that. Yeah, it's been very rough. I appreciate everyone who said they were praying for me, and who also sent nice messages throughout this time, because I had people DMing me or comments on my community posts who were very supportive, and I appreciate it, each and every one of you. I also had my friends, my real life friends, who I kept in touch with a couple of them. They ended up making a card, because I would send one of them updates like what was going on with me, and eventually they actually made me a card, which was really nice. It was halfway through my steroid. They made a card, they all signed it, and had a little message in there, maybe a Bible verse or some encouragement. And one of my friends dropped it off, and that was really nice. So yeah, a lot has happened. This is not how I thought 2025 would go. I had big plans for 2025, going to college, making friends, doing YouTube, I didn't, it's still hard to believe some of the things that have happened, and hard to I want to understand or know why this had to happen, and hopefully I will at some point, but right now I don't really know, because I felt like I was doing everything I could. Before this, I was healthy for the most part. Not everyone's perfect, but I was pretty healthy. I don't know how this happened or why. They've done genetic testing on my family member, but nothing came back positive there, and so that no one knows. But my family member is doing a lot better. We're both healing. Things are moving forward, but we both still have lots of healing to go. My eating, as I mentioned, and my drinking is not perfect. Breathing issues still, and a few other symptoms, but things are moving forward. I would appreciate any prayers for my family, because we still got a ways to go, but I'm doing a lot better. So this is a very long video. I have lots of stories I could tell. I will tell them some other day on my second channel. I would like to go over what my plans are for this channel. At this point, I will not say that I'm going to be uploading videos anytime soon. I want to upload, but right now I feel like I just need to give myself time to heal, to work on myself. And one thing that's been going through my mind throughout this whole situation was, when I am healed or well enough to do things, I don't want to make the same mistake again where I waste my life, or I felt like I was wasting my life for the past few years before this. I don't want to waste time on things that are pointless. I don't want to feel like I'm procrastinating a lot, or just not moving forward in life, which is the reason I even started to attend college, was because I felt like I needed to do something, because the past few years before that, I felt like I was not doing anything with my time, or doing certain things that I could to improve myself, or do job wise. Yeah, I just really didn't want to do that, repeat that again when I was healed, because I went through all this, and I was upset with my past self for wasting so much time on things, and I was once I'm better, I cannot do that. I cannot do that again, or I'll be upset with myself again. So I'm doing my best right now to work on myself, for my health, find new hobbies, stay active, and all that. So yeah, that's where things are right now. I don't know when I'll start uploading again. What I'll be uploading is what I probably said in my last video. Order Realms content. Hightail. I did not say that in my last video, but Hightail. I need to try it. But I've heard it's really good. I've been waiting for this game for so long. During this whole thing, I heard it was canceled, and then all of a sudden it was bought back, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Probably be making Hightail videos, and then also uploading on my second channel for Murder Mystery, because I do enjoy that. I think that's all I have to say. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Hope you all had a good New Year so far. I appreciate prayers for my family still, and I hope to see you all very soon. I hope nothing like this ever happens to any of you guys. Hope no one has to go through what I did and my family did. Hope everyone stays healthy. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. God bless, and